Hi folks, welcome to Epicure Creative. Today we're making homemade soy milk, which is the first step in making homemade tofu, which is really delicious. It's beyond comparison to what you can get in the store. So the first step is we soak our soybeans overnight, preferably in filtered water. So if you have a Brita filter, that's a good choice. And after you soak them overnight and the beans become hydrated, if you take one, it'll easily split in half in your hand. And you'll have a soybean with very flat interior surfaces, and it'll be a pale yellow color. And it will be relatively soft, breaks easily, like so. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this liquid that the beans soaked in, and we're going to put it in this pot that is going to be brought up to a simmer. And while that's happening, we're going to grind up our beans, our soybeans, in a blender. So I just want to be sure that I get some of my beans ended up in my liquid pot here. You want to make sure that your pot is big enough to accommodate all the beans too after they get ground up. Once we have all our beans in the blender, I want to add a couple of cups worth of this soaking liquid. You don't want to use it all though. The consistency that we're looking for when we grind these beans up is it will look sort of like cooked polenta or like a milkshake. Like so. And now we add these ground up beans to our pot with our hot soaking liquid in it and bring it up to a boil. Now that we have our soaking liquid from our beans hot, we just add our ground up soybeans. One thing that I do to make sure that I get it all is I use the rest of our soaking liquid just to rinse out the blender a little bit. And using a wooden spoon, I keep stirring as I heat it up. If I don't keep stirring, the solids could sink to the bottom of the pot, form a skin down there, which could easily scorch and burn, which would obviously ruin it. So this has been at a simmer over medium-high heat for about 5 minutes now. And the whole time, I've kept it in motion. I didn't stop stirring so that the solids would not stick to the bottom of the pan and cause it to scorch. So now we can shut off the heat, and we're just going to deflate this foam on the surface. Unlike when making a stock, this is not going to get skimmed away. These proteins are going to get strained along with the rest of the liquid for our soy milk. What we have set up here is our straining tools. So we have a chinois, which is a fine mesh strainer, on this stand with a quart container underneath. We're going to get like 4 or 5 quarts yield of soy milk. I also have this muslin bag, which is really important. This is used for cheese making and for making nut milks. You can also, if you don't have one of these, you can use cheesecloth as well. Just line your colander with cheesecloth. So it's just a matter of straining all of your solids out of your liquid. And after a certain point, when we get most of the liquid part of this strained out, there's going to be a lot of solids. So when the solids or the lees end up inside this strainer, this bag, we will just sort of cinch it up really tight, like wringing out a wet towel. to get as much of the soy milk out of the lees as possible. Now that we've strained most of the liquid out of our ground up soybeans, we're just going to twist up our bag here that contains the solids so that we can squeeze as much of the liquid out as possible so that we have the best yield. This is still relatively hot. You can use a potato masher, you can use a ladle or something else to push on this bag and release as much liquid as possible from the solids. But if it is cool enough, a good way to do it is definitely by hand. And I'm going to keep working on this, but in the meantime, I'm going to show you what the solids look like, or the lees as they're referred to. There are uses for this. It's not necessarily complete waste, so you can either save it for another use, or you can get rid of it, you can compost it, but there will be some of these solids left over. Now that we have all of our soybeans strained and we have all of our soy milk, I'll show you what our yield looks like. So we have our soybean lees here, and this is the amount here that's left. And our total yield of our soy milk is about 2.5 quarts. And so now we're just going to refrigerate these, and we are going to continue on with our process by making tofu out of this soy milk.